Okay guys, I'm going to walk you through the interface here. So when you open up Blender, you'll see the standard cube and camera and light. Pretty straightforward stuff. So first of all, to navigate, I've got my mouse here, so I'll mouse scroll wheel around. If I hold down the middle mouse scroll wheel, I can pan around the object like so. And if I hold down shift and also hold down the middle mouse wheel, I can track across the screen like so. If for instance you've got something over here and you want to frame it, really useful shortcut here. If you press the period key or dot delete key on the numpad, it will bring everything into focus. And the same is true actually in other panels. So for instance, if I had this selected here, and let's say for instance I've got nothing selected, put something there, and then it will bring it into view. If I had loads of things, you'll see that happen. Anyway, so that's the kind of like a nature. You can see here it's kind of spinning around in a weird fashion. What I really want is for it to stay in the center of the scene. So I've got two really useful elements here. So you can see here as I'm scrolling also, let's say for instance I want this to be in the middle. I can either press that dot key period, or you can go to edit preferences and go to navigation and turn on orbit around selection and zoom to mouse position. And what you'll find is that with my cursor, I can put my cursor over here, and now you see it can zoom to wherever my cursor is, which is much more useful. Also, when I'm panning around the object, it stays in the center, which is or it stays in the same position, which is fantastic, rather than spinning around and giving you a headache. So that's navigation. And the same is true in other panels as well, which you'll see later on when we are going into animation. On the left hand side we have our tools. So for instance I've got this cube selected. I can either press the move tool there and left mouse put it around, or I can, with that selected, I can press, for instance if I press G on the keyboard, that's move. You can see it's, without going onto the tool up here, it's moving around. If I right click, it will send it back to the original position. So you've got G, if I press G again and then press, let's say press Z on the keyboard, it maintains it on a certain axis. So you can see in Blender, Z is the vertical axis, like so. And then similarly, if I press Y, press X, etc. You get the idea. Okay, so that's so we've got scale here as well. One thing that's useful to know, the keyboard shortcut for scale is S, which is quite good because when you are scaling objects, you'll find that sometimes coming in and manipulating things in that circle there is Control Z, by the way, is to undo. Sometimes a little bit finicky. If, for instance, I'm over here and I want to scale it much bigger, if I hover near my object and then press S on the keyboard, I can really scale things with a lot more sensitivity. Okay, and talking of sensitivity, in fact, if I go onto the move tool here and if I hold down shift as I'm moving, it has a lag to it, which allows you to be much more precise with your movements. Same is true with the scale and rotation. So in terms of viewports, that's kind of like how you navigate your way around the screen. We have various panels here, so you can see this panel here is the 3D viewport, like so. If I was to go on to another one, you'll see this is the timeline, the same as the timeline down here. Let's put that back on 3D viewport. Up here you have different panel setups. So if we go into animation, you'll see it's got a camera view here with a dope sheet down here and the 3D viewport here. Similarly in modeling, we've got all of the modeling toolkit alongside a nice big 3D viewport here for you to work your way around into. I'm going to go back onto the layout. So that's kind of these panels up here. If you want to manipulate these panels, you can, if you hover over the edges, you can pull them out like so. And if you want to change them, obviously this is one here, so we'll be using the graph editor and 3D viewport and outline and properties up here. So outliner, this one up here, is a listed description of everything in your scene. The object properties here, or the properties, this is object properties, is a big broad view upon all different panels to do with everything that's going on within your Blender file, basically. So we've got materials down here, so this would show the materials of the object. We've got modifiers, which we'll get into. This is the object properties. We've got rendering up here, scene and rendering, lots of different stuff. Physics down here, there's physics. If you hover over them, it will give you the different descriptions of what they are and what they do. So, as well as the navigation there, you can actually click and hold here, and you can also click them individually, and it will spin you through different viewports. So you can see this one's right orthographic. So if I press on the numpad, if I press 1, it will give me the front view. You can get out of that by just holding down the middle mouse and going back into a sort of panning viewport. So 1 is front view, 3 is right, 7 is top, etc, etc, 9 is bottom. So you tend to use those a little bit. Now in here we have the actual, if I hover over that little arrow there and left click, or you can press N to toggle it on the keyboard, it gives you the properties of different add-ons that you've been using, or that you've got activated. And more importantly, the actual locations of these objects. So for instance, this one here, you can see on the x-axis it's giving me a certain value. So if I click and left mouse, I can manipulate it like so, and if I manipulate it like so, you can see the values change. So one handy tip, if you left drag down, oops, let's just see if we can do that again. Oh, it doesn't seem to be working. Okay, so let's just see if I can shift them. Okay, so if I press 0 on the keyboard, it will send it back to the original position. If, for instance, I want to place it directly onto the floor plane, or the plane here, you can see it's going to change the location here. Now what's quite useful in Blender, if for instance I want to say that this is the original position, and so if I wanted to ever bring it back to this position, you can see that they've got values on it. If I press Control A on the keyboard and go to all transforms to deltas, you will see that disappeared, and so it's given this as its original position, which is really useful. So obviously you can manipulate the object, you know, in all sorts of different ways here. I'm not quite sure why it's glitching there. A bit curious. Why is doing that? So let's just zero those out. And oh yes, I remembered. If you want to change the setup of your panel, let's say for instance I want to get rid of this one down here. If I just hover over the corner here on this one here, so I want to keep this one and get rid of this one. So you're going to hover over the corner of the one that I want to keep, and then left click and drag down, and that will get rid of it. If I want a new one, you can go to the top corners and left click, drag down, and there you go. So I can change that to, for instance, the timeline. Okay, hopefully that's given you a good roundup of how to navigate your way around and understand the interface a little bit. Okay.